going to be proposing a change that should be made in the medical field today. So I'm going to be discussing antibiotics versus bacteria. But first I want to start off with a theoretical scenario. So let's imagine we have two children, both been diagnosed with a bronchitis infection. Doctor says child A, he has bronchitis that can be treated with common antibiotics, while child B is going to need a much more powerful form of drug to get rid of the drug-resistant bacteria causing this infection. So what is the difference between child A and child B? So child A, when he was younger, took antibiotics for only bacterial infections, while child B took antibiotics whenever he felt ill. So that could be for either bacterial infections or viral infections. So that is why in the results, he had been longer hospitalized, and because he had to be treated with a much more powerful antibiotic, and thus had to be monitored and watched. So you might think this is a hypothetical situation that occurs, but it is occurring in today's society. Many of us think that antibiotics are the solution for any infection or illness that we do come upon. Some people go as far as to demand from their physicians that they need antibiotics for any illness that they do have. And therefore, our need and desire for instant relief has put us in a situation where bacteria is becoming resistant to our commonly used antibiotics. According to the CDC, bacterial antibiotic resistance is one of the most pressing public health issues. It has been around for a long time, since the creation of penicillin with the spinoff of the resistant form for the Staphylococcus. But it is much more of a severe issue because bacteria has become more resistant to not just one antibiotic, but multiple antibiotics, making it much more harder to kill them and remove them from our immune systems in our bodies. Researchers at the Canadian Committee on Antibiotic Resistance stated that superbacteria, such as the strain the child B had with the bronchitis, is resistant to 90% of the antibiotics we have on market. So you can see that there is a need for change with the utilization of antibiotics. If we do not make a change, then we are facing an era where superbacteria will become incurable. And unfortunately, this can lead to pushing back modern science to the 19th century when people did die from modern infections. And that, of course, is something no one wants to see happen. No one wants to see themselves, friends, families be harmed by such disease-causing bacteria. So before I go into explaining the solutions needed to counter this problem, I want to explain to you guys what antibiotic resistance is. So antibiotic resistance occurs when bacteria, they change, and they can change through mutations in their DNA or exchanging resistant genes with other bacteria. This goes on to reduce and eliminate the effectiveness of antibiotics, drugs, chemicals, and their jobs to eradicate infections. So bacteria can go on to, that did survive and that was resistant, to thrive, multiply, and ultimately be spread from one individual to the next. So why has this become such a problem? Why is it affecting us so drastically? Well, there's our three causes. The first one is the overprescription of antibiotics. So let me start off with an example such as common sore throat. We all get them. I have one currently right now. So according to the National Health Survey, between 1997 and 2010, physicians were prescribing adults with sore throats antibiotics 60% of the time. But Dr. Jeffrey Linder told NPR in 2013 that only the correct rate for prescribing antibiotics for people who had sore throats was about 10%. And you can see that we are over-prescribing, and the people who actually needed the antibiotic was only 10% of those 60% being prescribed. And this goes into play with the physicians. Physicians are giving out antibiotics to patients who demand them, and for their kids themselves, or even just because they like lackadaisical. They give them out because it takes less time to explain to a patient why they don't deserve it, and it's much more effective for the patient, and they feel satisfied. Our second cause is going to be the improper use of antibiotics. This is going to happen usually with patients, and so they'll be prescribed a recommended dosage of an antibiotic, but won't finish it off, or they will share with their friends, hey, Jill, saying, I'll share with her, give her half, we both be cured. But that's not the case. We see that it's actually creating more resistant bacteria because they're able to thrive longer, as well as form these mutations and then replicate, reproduce, and produce more drug-resistant forms of themselves. Our second cause is going to be the use of antimicrobial cleansers. And every day, we all use, little sanitizers, as Alex was referring to earlier. And these should be only placed in healthcare settings where there are germs right there in the vicinity. We need to avoid using them because they're not as effective. In 2002, Stuart Levy, an MD and the president of the Alliance for Prudent Use of Antibiotics, stated that these products have not proven to be a health benefit, but they have been proven to create resistant bacteria, which, as always, makes it much harder for us to deal with antibiotics. So, what solutions do we take to eradicate these causes? First of all, the first step we take is to talk to your physicians. Make sure you know what is wrong with you, know your illness, know if it's whether bacterial or viral, because it makes an extreme difference in what type of medication you'll be taking. And then definitely don't demand that your physician prescribe you antibiotics when you do not need them. Secondly, you want to use the antibiotics properly. So take your recommended dosages, as well as don't share with other people. And last but not least, avoid the use of antimicrobial cleansers. As I said before, they're not proven to be any more effective than, say, your typical liquid soap. The difference between if it's effective or not is how long you take in washing your hands. And so, a simple soap such as from like Colgate, the soft soaps, or even hemp soap from Mr. Borden's line, then that's an effective way to rid yourself of germs, and just using soap and water. So I've explained to you guys what antibiotic resistance is, how it's become a problem, as well as the solutions outlined before you can make a change into this problem. No one wants to see, their family members be infected with a disease-causing bacteria that ultimately cannot be curable or, leads to death. That's something no one wants to experience. So it's our time right now to take a stand and make a change in the way that patients and physicians are operating within the medical community. And by using these solutions is the most effective way to get it under control and reduce the emergence of new resistant bacteria. As an old saying goes, if you're early, you're on time. But if you're on time, you're late. And so we want to do as much as we can now and be punctual in preventing this epidemic from becoming more emergent